Hello everybody, welcome to this week's episode of The County Seat. I'm your host, Chad Booth. Today we're going to talk about public lands. There has been a contentious relationship between the Bureau of Land Management and the counties of Utah for nearly 36 years since the Federal Lands Policy and Management Act, or FLPMA, was passed. In the interim, many temporary designations have been given to land which clouds the ability of counties to make good long-range planning in areas such as transportation, grazing, mineral extraction, recreation, and also wilderness. To clarify this, the process of creating land bills has started. It began in Washington County. They passed a bill in 2009. Emery County is now working on a lands bill. So how does this process work, and how will these bills clear up the usage of the land and make the county view and the federal view compatible? Here with the background, Terry Wood.
Land use planning may seem like a simple thing for local governments to deal with in Utah. They balance economic concerns with the allowance for certain areas to be wilderness and other areas for recreation. But when dealing with public lands in Utah, it's rarely that easy.
In 2009, Washington County became the first in Utah to get congressional approval for a land plan that allowed local officials to sit down with interested parties and come up with a definitive strategy for how lands were to be used. Since then, a handful of other counties have also made plans for how land within their boundaries are used and designated.
Altogether, that process, we were probably 4 or 5 years getting this land bill done. It was not just something that we did overnight. We took each area of the county, and one day we met at the courthouse and discussed the areas. We broke it down, and then the following day we'd go out and get on the land and go over the area that we'd talked about the day before until we, pretty well covered each area of the county.
When public lands are involved, the list of stakeholders is usually quite long, including everyone from farmers and grazers to environmental organizations and oil companies. One of the advantages of planning at the local level is that it is easier to involve all of the groups and individuals who use the land. Wilderness designation, while not the only purpose of these county land bills, does become an important component. Hundreds of thousands of Utah acres have been under the temporary title of Wilderness Study Area for over 30 years. The Washington County plan set out to either officially turn them into wilderness or to open them back up.
Wilderness is definitely a major part of the bills, and that's really where we came from starting, was to get wilderness designated and move on with what wasn't wilderness. But in our bill, we also designated some wild and scenic rivers, 2 national conservation areas. We also identified some acreage for sale.
Shortly after the Washington County plan got approval from Congress, it spurred other Utah counties to take their bills to Congress.
We viewed Washington County's public lands bill as passing as a great benchmark, something that meant counties can pass public lands legislation, and if Washington County can do it, why not Emery County?
Some see these county land bills as wilderness bills, but stakeholders to the process are quick to point out that wilderness is just one function of the bill.
That's one part, as is recreation, grazing, oil, gas, mining.
Emery County was all prepared to submit their bill to Congress to get final approval. But Utah Senator Mike Lee stated he will not support any new wilderness bills that have not been okayed by the state legislature.
If the state government, which has a sovereign interest in its land and has sovereign interests that are affected by the designation of wilderness, I think the state ought to have the opportunity to weigh in and say we like this or we don't like it.
In response, House Bill 176 was passed to create a process for counties to follow in order to get state approval.
That bill gives counties a checklist of issues that they have to address in their land bill if they want legislative support.
However, not all Utah counties are thrilled about it.
I felt, and some of us on the Public Lands Council felt, that was just another block in our wilderness bill, and that's exactly what has happened. Is we haven't been able to get it before Congress because the state legislature wanted their input into it.
And that's definitely had an impact on the discussion and slowed up a lot of the progress that was being made on some of these county bills. I think they're getting some of those issues resolved, but do you want to try and resolve some of these issues right now, or do you want to just leave it as the status quo?
If they can't make it work in Emery County, if they can't put together a bill that's going to be to the legislature's liking, it's going to send a signal, I think, to the other counties that this is a hard process, and it might affect the willingness of other counties to do bills. So all eyes are on Emery County right now.
Now, the hope is this process will actually determine how counties go about land use bills in the future. For the county seat, I'm Terry Wood.
Thank you, Terry. Very enlightening. We will continue our discussion on public lands bills, in particular the focus of Emery County and their efforts to establish a permanent public land use bill for their county when we come back here on the county seat.
So what brings you to St. George?
Business meeting.
Staying long?
Just here for the day, quick in and out. On second thought. Holy.
We'd like to invite you to sit back, relax, and enjoy your 45-minute flight to Salt Lake.
I should have booked a weekend.
Industry is the symbol of Utah. Beauty is what makes it unique. Nowhere else are these two qualities exemplified, like in Uinta County. Oil and gas extraction, pioneer history, the spirit of hard work and integrity that feed our state. Built in the middle of the most spectacular backdrop in the West. Isn't it time you found the balance you've been looking for? Uinta County, Utah, where industry meets inspiration.
Rediscover your sense of adventure. Welcome to San Juan County. Discover the past. A change of place. Utah, San Juan County, where life is elevated.
If you ever dreamt of running through an old west town, searching for outlaws, hiding behind the stable, or inside the old church with your six-shooter by your side, well, your dreams have come true. Castlegate Town Shooting Range is the most detailed, most realistic, and outright most fun shooting range you've ever seen. The North Springs Shooting Range.